Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. Today we're working on a 2015 Audi A3. Complaint is it has no heat, and yeah, there's no heat here. The gauge is halfway up. Now, one of the first things I did on this, since they say that the heat comes and goes, that's not good. So what I did was I plugged in the computer here. They drove in a while back, so the engine's still warm. It's 2:15 right now. It's been idling here for about 5 minutes. I get out under the hood. We're full of coolant. I'll show you what I did there. Oh! Now, of course, I checked the codes, made sure there wasn't a thermostat code or anything like that in there. Whole slew of codes in the computer, like usual on these things. Nothing related to any problem that we're experiencing. Just a whole bunch of codes, because usually by the time we see these cars, they're long in the tooth. This one's one of the newest Audis I've worked on. But we got plenty of coolant in the reservoir. I reach down here, and it feels like we've got flow through the radiator hose. But I reach down here through the heater hose, and it's barely warm. The bypass line up here is cold. So that tells me we probably don't have flow through the heater core. One thing I was worried about, the reason I jumped out here and checked it, is made sure it had coolant in it. Because the heater won't work if there's no coolant in the heater core. So yes, it's got coolant in it. And since the radiator hose itself is hot while the thermostat's supposed to be open, that means that the thermostat is opening up and letting it flow. So we're probably not dealing with air pockets in the heater core. We're going to take it out and drive it with the computer on there, make sure the temperature doesn't drop way down, and go from there. Now, one thing that I did do is I rolled the temperature controls all the way cold and then all the way hot, and I could feel the density change in the air coming out, but not any temperature change. I could actually hear the doors moving inside. So you always want to check that too. Make sure you don't have a blend door problem. Of course, all of that really does is tell you that that stuff is moving. But we're driving it right now. If it doesn't drop down to the level of the thermostat while you're driving it down the road and continues to climb, there is another possibility that I have seen on these European cars. Volkswagen's had this problem, so I assume Audi does too, because they're very similar in their build. But they used to put, or they still do, put plastic impellers in the water pump, and they tend to explode, and then you have no water pump. Then you won't have any heat because it's not pumping it through the system. It'll kind of gravity heat in the engine, kind of try to flow, but really not. I didn't have any cooling system codes whatsoever in it. I didn't look at the system all that great. It might have an electric water pump, so we're going to check that out while we're doing this too. Okay, back from a test drive. Went ahead and pulled off the heater hoses back there and flushed the heater core out, once one way, then the other, then the other. This is a common problem with Audi because they're another one of those companies that use stop leak from the factory. And from my research, a lot of them have a problem with plugging up the heater core. They call it the heater matrix. This was not a problem. I could tell just by the way it flushed through that it didn't pop loose, it just flowed. Of course, after another test drive, it made no difference. We were leaning towards that because it's not a thermostat. Going down the road, the engine temperature maintains. It does not drop, even though you lose cooling or you lose heat in the dash. So checking the hoses, they're cold. they're not getting any flow through the hoses. And then you have to think, this is a high-end German car, and they like to hang a bunch of stuff on it. So that's what led me to this. You see this conglomeration of hoses here, that's the cooling system. There's like 7 or 8 different possibilities of what it is. It took me a while to figure it out, but eventually I was able to find this. This is the heater core shutoff. Now, I'm not 100% sure how it activates, but it closes this or lets it fall closed whenever you turn on the max AC inside. I believe the way it works is it energizes and opens up for normal operation. So it holds it open at all times. And then when you turn on the max AC, it turns this solenoid off. You see in our wire colors right here, we've got the green wire. That is a switched ground, switched by the engine control computer. And this other wire here is our power wire. It is powered through the main power relay. It's the same power source that everything uses. So I double checked to make sure we have power here. That works. I double checked, then made sure we had ground here. When we turn the max air on and off inside with the key on, this switches on and off. So I plugged it back in so that we had a load on it, and we switched it again. And we had power yet, and we have switched ground yet. I ohm tested this solenoid. It ohm tests good, but there is no operation to this switch. So what we've got is this valve right here is either stuck or inoperable, plugged up, one of the three. And we've got one on order from Audi right now, and we're waiting on it. Now the part from Audi costs 5 times as much as what you could just find one online. We're getting the Audi OE sourced part. Since we use a lot of parts all the time, our failure rate is a whole lot higher than somebody that's just working in their driveway. They can get an Amazon part, put it on there, and if it fails twice, that's twice that they've replaced it. If you go through 10 parts in a week, that's a lot of failures to deal with if they start going down on you. We've had the experience with that. That is why we tend to use OE parts, even though the OE part is 5 times higher. Click, click, click. Okay, now you saw me just check the new part. It's been several days. The customer is not happy at all. Neither are we. The part was actually delivered last week, but I found it in a puddle of water next door. There is a certain company that they supposedly deliver, around, and not all of their employees are as diligent as Tom Hanks. I'll just say that, as far as delivering packages. We've had an ongoing problem for the last 20-some years. So anyway, I checked the part on here. It works. Let's get it put on there. Now this valve is supposed to be normally open. I cleaned it off. And it's not. The new one, there's our problem. Okay, we're all back together. Got the air box, got the air tube back in underneath there. Got the air box back in. Got the cover back on. Got it topped off the coolant. We're gonna go out and drive it and see if we got heat now. Okay, test drive went well. We got good heat now. Come on, guys, you're both pretty. Leave it alone. We got good heat. The valve was stuck. It wouldn't even pass air. Normally supposed to be open. Must have had a spring broke or something inside of it. But good test drive, good heat. Got the customer contacted. He's going to be here day after tomorrow to pick it up. So good repair. Now, one thing I do want to say is this is not a problem that I found on any of the forums. Everyone was saying heater core plugged up, every single one of them. Some of them were saying a problem in the dash, because that in the dash is what controls this switch. It talks to the ECM, the ECM talks to the valve. So beware when you're looking on the internet, because like I said, nowhere in the internet that I found, reading through all the Audi forums, Mitchell on Demand, TSBs, no one said anything about that heater valve being shut. But common sense says we got a blockage in the system. So that was the first thing I checked after I checked the heater core. Always double check. Comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.